When the day begins, the weak look for comfort, but the disciplined rise before the mind has time to negotiate. In the quiet hours when the world is still and the body asks for rest, that is where the true battle is found. The spirit is tested not by swords or enemies but by the silent struggle within. Desire whispers that you deserve ease, warmth, softness, but discipline stands firm and answers with action. The body may feel heavy, the thoughts may resist, yet the warrior does not wait for permission from feelings. Action comes first and emotion is commanded to follow. Those who live by impulse become servants to their own weakness, while those who act with discipline become masters of their own life. There is a moment each morning when the path divides. One path leads to delay, comfort, distraction, and the slow decay of strength. The other leads to effort, discomfort, and the forging of power. That moment decides who rises above and who remains ordinary. The ones who wait for motivation are ruled by the shifting winds of mood, but the ones who act without hesitation shape their own fate. Discipline is not loud, not dramatic, not glorious in appearance. It is simple, direct, and relentless. It is waking when the body resists, training when the mind complains, moving forward when doubt pulls backward. Through repetition, the spirit becomes sharp and the will becomes unbreakable. When discipline leads and desire follows, life becomes clear. There is no confusion, no wasted motion, no endless argument inside the mind. The path becomes one of purpose rather than comfort. The disciplined do not chase pleasure, they pursue growth. They do not ask whether the task is easy or enjoyable, only whether it strengthens the body, sharpens the mind, and strengthens the spirit. Every action becomes training, every effort becomes preparation, every discomfort becomes fuel. The heart grows calm in hardship because hardship is no longer an enemy, it becomes a teacher. People who live under the rule of desire are carried by their emotions like leaves in the wind. They seek convenience and call it peace. They avoid effort and call it balance. But they do not see that every day spent obeying weakness makes the spirit smaller. When the time comes to face real struggle, they collapse because their strength was never built. Discipline, however, is like steel forged in fire. It is shaped through discomfort, repetition, and resistance. Each act of discipline is a strike of the hammer, each refusal of comfort is another layer of strength. Over time, power is not something imagined, it becomes real, solid, and alive within you. To act before feeling is to command the self. The warrior does not ask, "Do I feel like rising?" The warrior rises. The warrior does not ask, "Do I feel strong today?" The warrior trains. By placing action above emotion, the spirit learns silence in the presence of doubt. Fear may exist, fatigue may exist, but neither is allowed to lead. They may be present, but they do not decide. This is the difference between those who drift and those who advance. The disciplined become creators of their own path. They do not wait for opportunity, they prepare for it. They do not hope for strength, they cultivate it. In the early hours of effort, discipline feels like burden. But as days pass, the burden becomes foundation. The very actions that once felt heavy become the source of confidence. The mind no longer resists the hard path because it has learned that the hard path leads to growth. Desire begins to follow discipline not because desire disappears but because it has been trained. The body grows stronger, the mind grows calmer, and the spirit no longer trembles when challenged. Discipline transforms effort into identity. Power built through discipline is not noise or aggression. It is quiet, steady, and immovable. It is the kind of strength that does not need to be shown because it exists deeply within. When others complain, the disciplined endure. When others hesitate, the disciplined step forward. When others search for excuses, the disciplined search for responsibility. This is how discipline becomes power, not through force but through mastery of the self. The greatest enemy is not outside, it is the weakness within. And that weakness is defeated not in great moments of passion, but in small moments of daily decision. Each morning is a chance to choose which voice you obey. The voice of comfort will promise ease, but it will steal your potential. The voice of discipline will demand effort, but it will give you strength. The 1% are not different by luck or fate. They are different because they choose discipline before desire, action before emotion, and purpose before comfort. They rise not because it is easy, but because they refuse to bow to weakness. The path is simple, but it is not soft. If you wish for power, then act before you feel ready, move before doubt speaks, and let discipline be the blade that cuts through every excuse. Only those who command themselves can ever hope to conquer anything beyond themselves. When you wake in the early hours before the world has opened its eyes, there's a stillness that exposes the truth of who you really are. In that quiet space there are no distractions, no applause, no judgment, no competition, only you, your breath, your thoughts, and the path you have chosen to walk. It is in these early moments that discipline and purpose reveal themselves, because comfort will always whisper that you deserve more sleep, more softness, more delay. But a warrior does not listen to that voice. A warrior rises not because the world demands it, but because his own spirit refuses to remain idle. The body tries to resist effort, but the mind must become stronger than the flesh, and the will must command the body to obey. There is a deep truth in learning to sit with discomfort. Most people search for ease, for the softest bed, the quickest relief, the quietest path. They think peace comes from avoiding struggle, but peace is not found in avoiding hardship. Peace is discovered only when one confronts hardship and refuses to break. The person who fears discomfort becomes a prisoner to it, but the one who accepts discomfort becomes unshakable. When the world changes, when uncertainty comes, when storms of life appear, the person who has trained their spirit through discipline will stand firm while others collapse under the weight of chaos. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is a teacher. It sharpens awareness. It awakens the senses. It reminds you that you are alive and that you are capable of enduring far more than your doubts tell you. Most people run from it because they do not understand it. They see effort as suffering and challenge as punishment, but the warrior understands that without effort there is no growth, without challenge there is no strength, and without sacrifice there is no true victory. The path of discipline is not chosen because it is easy. It is chosen because it forges a spirit that cannot be bent by fear or weakness. There will always be moments when your mind seeks excuses, when it tells you that you can begin tomorrow, that one day of delay will make no difference, that comfort is harmless. But every time you surrender to that voice, you weaken the bond between your spirit and your purpose. Every time you rise when you do not feel ready, every time you push forward when your emotions resist, every time you choose action over hesitation, you carve strength into your character. Discipline is not built in the loud moments of achievement, but in the silent battles no one sees. The journey of self-mastery is not defined by how many victories you achieve over others, but by how many victories you achieve over yourself. The greatest opponent is not the person standing across from you. The greatest opponent is the hesitation inside you, the laziness that whispers softly, the doubt that questions your worth, the fear that convinces you to stand still. When you confront these shadows and refuse to bow to them, you discover a strength that no external battle can ever provide. There is meaning in repeating the same effort day after day, even when progress feels invisible. The mind grows restless, the body demands comfort, but persistence shapes destiny. People seek motivation because they do not understand discipline. Motivation comes and disappears like wind, but discipline remains when desire fades. Discipline is the promise you keep to yourself when no one is watching. It is the fire that does not need fuel from outside sources because it burns from within the core of your being. When hardship comes, and it always does, the disciplined mind does not panic, it does not break, it does not run, it breathes, it observes, it adapts, it moves forward with clarity because it has already faced difficulty by choice. One who is trained in discomfort treats challenge as a familiar companion rather than an enemy. The undisciplined mind is surprised by difficulty. The disciplined mind expects it and walks through it calmly. Strength is not developed through comfort. Strength is discovered when you walk toward the things others avoid. When you train under pressure, when you study longer than your patience desires, when you work despite fatigue, when you refuse to surrender to ease, you are shaping a spirit that does not collapse under adversity. The path of greatness is narrow because most people are unwilling to pay its price, but the one who accepts its cost gains something far greater than convenience: mastery over self. There is a clarity that comes only when you detach from comfort. When the body is pushed, the mind sharpens. When the mind is challenged, awareness deepens. When the spirit is tested, truth reveals itself. You begin to understand what truly matters and what is merely noise. You stop chasing approval and begin walking your path with certainty. Discipline strips away illusions and leaves only what is real: your choices, your effort, and your resolve. Those who live for comfort become fragile. Those who train their spirit through discipline become timeless. Comfort ages the will, but challenge renews it. The warrior does not seek pain for suffering's sake, but embraces it as a necessary forge, a place where weakness burns away and strength emerges. When you understand this, you no longer resent difficulty, you bow to it with respect, because it is shaping you into someone capable of carrying a heavier destiny. Every day offers a choice: stay as you are or become something greater. Growth demands sacrifice, and sacrifice demands courage. The path is not easy, and it is not meant to be. But for the one who continues forward, who does not retreat, who faces discomfort without fear, the reward is not just strength of body but strength of mind and spirit. And that strength cannot be taken by anyone or anything. And so, when the world sleeps and you rise, when the mind resists and you continue, when comfort calls and you refuse, you are not simply training the body, you are forging a spirit that walks freely through life, unafraid of struggle, unafraid of hardship, unafraid of the path ahead, because discipline has already turned your struggle into power. There comes a moment in every path of discipline when the mind grows restless, and the heart begins to question the meaning of the struggle. The body tires, the spirit trembles, and the temptation to return to comfort grows strong. Many people turn back at this stage, believing the challenge is a sign that the path is not meant for them. But the truth is the opposite. When resistance appears, it is not a barrier but a gateway. It is the threshold between the life of ordinary desire and the life of unshakable purpose. I have walked through this threshold many times, and each time I discovered that the greatest power does not come from strength of body but from clarity of intention. Discipline without purpose becomes empty repetition. It becomes a burden instead of a source of power. But when every action is tied to a deeper reason, even the hardest task becomes meaningful. The warrior does not rise early, endure hardship, or face discomfort simply to prove endurance. These actions are not rituals of suffering, they are bridges to mastery. They are the tools through which the mind learns to command the body and the spirit learns to transcend doubt. When I chose the harder path, it was never out of pride. It was out of commitment to the path I had sworn to walk. Most people chase comfort because they have never defined their purpose. They drift between desires, pulled by distractions, influenced by voices around them, never asking themselves what they are truly willing to struggle for. Without purpose, pain feels pointless. Without purpose, every difficulty feels unfair. But when purpose becomes clear, struggle transforms into fuel. Pain becomes a sculptor, carving away weakness layer by layer. The person with no purpose escapes from hardship, but the one with purpose steps into it with calm conviction, knowing that every challenge strengthens the bond between their actions and their destiny. There is a deep stillness that comes from aligning discipline with intention. It is not the loud pride of achievement or the excitement of recognition. It is a silent inner strength that does not depend on praise or validation. When the actions of each day serve a greater vision, the mind stops fighting against effort. Instead, effort becomes natural. It becomes as essential as breath. In that state, discipline is no longer a struggle. It becomes a form of freedom because you are no longer controlled by comfort, impulse, or distraction. You act because you have chosen to, not because you are compelled to. The path is never straight, and purpose is not something discovered once and carried untouched forever. It must be refined, questioned, re-examined, and renewed. There were moments when I doubted, moments when I wondered whether the sacrifices were worth the cost. But in those moments of uncertainty, I returned to silence, to solitude, to reflection. I observed my fears instead of running from them. I asked myself whether I sought ease or truth. And each time the answer led me back to the path of discipline, because truth does not reveal itself to those who live gently. Truth reveals itself to those who are willing to walk through difficulty with unwavering presence. To live with purpose is to accept responsibility for every choice. It means understanding that nothing is owed to you, that no one will carry you to greatness, and that every step forward must be earned through intention and effort. Many people speak of dreams, but few are willing to pay the price that turns dreams into reality. Words are easy, action is demanding. A warrior does not speak of becoming stronger. He becomes stronger through what he repeatedly does, through what he refuses to abandon, through the pain he transforms into resolve. The mind becomes dangerous when it loses direction. Without purpose, discipline decays into frustration, and frustration turns into self-doubt. But with purpose, discipline becomes a sharp edge that cuts through hesitation. Each decision becomes deliberate, each moment becomes meaningful, and even in hardship there is peace. This is not the peace of comfort, but the peace of alignment, the peace of knowing that your actions reflect your deepest truth. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when effort feels endless and results remain unseen. These are the most important days of all because they test whether your purpose is real or only convenient. Anyone can persist when progress is visible. Only the truly disciplined continue when there is nothing to encourage them except their own conviction. That is where transformation begins. That is where strength is forged. The person who persists in silence becomes unstoppable when the world finally witnesses the result. Every choice either strengthens or weakens the bond with your purpose. Each moment you choose discipline over distraction, you declare loyalty to the path you have chosen. Each time you retreat into comfort, you drift further away from the person you claim you wish to become. No one else can walk this path for you. No one else can carry your burden. No one else can shape your spirit. The responsibility belongs entirely to you. And that responsibility, once accepted, becomes a source of immense power. To live with purpose is to understand that pain is temporary but growth is lasting. Comfort fades, strength remains. Ease disappears, character endures. The world honors those who achieve, but the true reward lies not in recognition, but in the silent certainty that you have lived with intention, that you have not betrayed your own potential, that you chose the path of truth over the path of ease. And so, continue to walk forward, not because the path is easy, but because it aligns with the destiny your spirit has chosen. Let your discipline serve your purpose, and let your purpose transform every hardship into power, for it is only through unwavering intention that the warrior becomes unbreakable. There is a truth many people avoid because it requires courage to face. The greatest battles are not fought against other people, but within the self. The external world may present enemies, obstacles, and challenges, but the true conflict lies in the quiet places of the mind where fear, hesitation, pride, and doubt attempt to take control. Those who lack awareness of this inner battlefield live as prisoners of their emotions and impulses, reacting without understanding, driven by habit instead of intention. But the one who seeks mastery must first learn to confront the self with honesty, without deception, without excuses, without comfort to hide behind. Every weakness begins in thought before it appears in action. Before defeat shows itself in the physical world, it first takes root inside the mind. A single moment of doubt grows into hesitation. A small indulgence becomes a repeated pattern. A minor excuse turns into a lifestyle of avoidance. This transformation happens quietly, unnoticed, until one day a person realizes they have drifted far from the discipline they once pursued. That is why awareness is essential. Without awareness, the mind becomes an enemy disguised as a companion. With awareness, it becomes a sharpened weapon that cuts through illusion. To confront the self is not to judge or criticize harshly, but to observe with clarity. It is to look at one's own fears and say, "I see you, but you do not control me." It is to face laziness and say, "You exist, but I will not follow you." It is to acknowledge desire without surrendering to it. Many people misunderstand discipline as force or suppression, as if strength means crushing emotion. But true strength does not come from denial, it comes from understanding. When you understand your weaknesses, they lose their power. When you understand your impulses, you regain control. When you understand your fear, it no longer commands your path. On the journey of discipline, the greatest adversary is comfort disguised as peace. Comfort whispers softly, telling you that rest is deserved, that effort can wait, that the path can pause for a moment. But comfort rarely arrives alone, it brings complacency with it. One day of surrender becomes two, then a week, then a habit. And habits shape destiny. The warrior does not reject rest, but chooses when it serves growth rather than escaping struggle. Rest earned through effort strengthens. Rest taken to avoid effort weakens. The difference lies in intention. There were times when I confronted my own hesitation, when the thought of an easier path appeared like a shadow at the edge of my mind. But instead of running from it or pretending it did not exist, I examined it closely. I asked why it appeared, what fear created it, what doubt fed it. Through this reflection, hesitation dissolved because it could no longer hide in darkness. Awareness brought clarity, and clarity transformed uncertainty into resolve. The mind is not tamed through force, it is tamed through truth. Those who avoid self-confrontation search endlessly for external enemies to blame. They blame circumstance, environment, luck, or other people. They tell themselves they were held back by life rather than limited by their own discipline. But the one who walks the warrior's path accepts responsibility for everything within their control. To accept responsibility is not to carry shame, it is to claim power. When you take responsibility, you gain authority over your future. The more you blame the world, the more you surrender your strength to it. The world outside is unpredictable. Fortune rises and falls, opportunities appear and disappear. Challenges strike without warning, but the inner world can be shaped, strengthened, and disciplined through effort and intention. When the inner world is steady, the outer world loses its ability to shake you. The storm may rage, but the warrior remains rooted, not because the storm is weak, but because the spirit is grounded in awareness and resolve. Strength does not come from avoiding storms, but from becoming unmovable within them. To confront the self is also to confront pride. Pride tells you that you have already done enough, that improvement is no longer necessary, that growth belongs to the past. But the path has no finish line. Mastery is not reached, it is lived. The moment one believes they have become invincible, they become vulnerable. The moment one stops learning, they begin to decline. Humility is not weakness. Humility is the doorway to endless refinement. The one who remains humble remains capable of transformation, and transformation is the essence of power. In silence, truth becomes louder. When the world is quiet and distractions fade, the mind reveals its true nature. Many people fear silence because in silence they must face themselves without escape. But silence is the forge where discipline is strengthened, where doubt is examined, where purpose is reaffirmed. The warrior seeks silence not to withdraw from life but to sharpen awareness of it. Through silence, intention becomes clear, and when intention is clear, action becomes unstoppable. Growth requires continual shedding of what no longer serves the path. Old habits, outdated beliefs, unnecessary attachments, all must be examined and released when they stand in the way of discipline. Letting go is not loss, letting go is refinement. The blade cannot remain sharp if it is never honed. The spirit cannot remain strong if it never releases what weakens it. The one who fears letting go remains trapped in the past. The one who embraces change becomes capable of becoming stronger than they once imagined. In every moment, a choice exists: to surrender to weakness or to confront it, to retreat into comfort or to rise into discipline, to avoid truth or to face it with unwavering courage. The path may be demanding, but through relentless self-awareness, the mind transforms from a battlefield into an instrument of power. And when the inner world is mastered, nothing outside can ever defeat you, for the greatest victory is always the victory over the self. There is a stage on the path of discipline where many grow weary, not because the journey is impossible, but because they expect transformation to come quickly. They desire strength without patience, mastery without repetition, results without persistence. But the truth of the path is that power does not appear in sudden moments of inspiration. It is built slowly, quietly, through countless actions that seem small and insignificant while they are being lived. The world may only see the victory, the moment of success, the outcome that appears decisive. But the true foundation of that moment is laid over years of unseen effort, days of silent commitment, and hours of disciplined practice when no one is watching. Consistency is the true companion of discipline. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, and it does not seek recognition. Yet it shapes the spirit more deeply than any burst of intensity. Many people act with strength only when they feel motivated, when emotion is high, when excitement gives them energy. But motivation fades, excitement weakens, emotion shifts like the wind. What remains when the feeling disappears is the one thing that separates the weak from the unbreakable: the decision to continue. To act when you no longer feel inspired is the point at which discipline becomes power. There were days when the path felt repetitive, when progress seemed invisible, when each step forward appeared no different from the day before. But I learned that repetition is not stagnation. Repetition is the refining of the soul. Each repeated effort sharpens intention. Each disciplined action reinforces identity. With every return to the practice, doubt loses strength, hesitation loses influence, and the spirit learns to stand firm even when the mind searches for reasons to withdraw. The path does not demand perfection, it demands presence. It demands the will to return again and again, regardless of struggle. Those who fail on the path often do so not because they lack ability, but because they lack endurance. They expect transformation to arrive swiftly, and when it does not, they question the value of effort. They compare themselves to others, doubt their progress, and allow impatience to corrode their resolve. But true mastery belongs only to those who understand that endurance is not simply surviving hardship, it is embracing the journey as a lifelong commitment. Strength does not arise from what is done once with intensity, but from what is done daily with intention. Every day presents a choice: to align with your path or drift away from it. The choice is made not in grand decisions, but in small moments: how you rise, how you work, how you respond to discomfort, how you speak to yourself in silence. Each choice either strengthens your spirit or feeds your weakness. The one who walks the warrior's path does not wait for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There is only the moment in front of you and the decision to honor it with action. Consistency also reveals truth. When you continue despite fatigue, you discover whether your purpose is real or only a desire of the moment. When you persist through difficulty, you learn the depth of your commitment. The path strips away illusion. It removes the phrases spoken without conviction, the claims made without action, the dreams carried without discipline. What remains is pure intent, the part of you willing to endure discomfort for the sake of becoming stronger. Through consistent effort, identity is forged not from words but from living evidence. Endurance is not force against the self, it is alignment with the deeper will. It is not the harsh pushing of the body beyond reason but the steady guiding of the spirit through uncertainty. There is strength in gentleness toward the path, in accepting difficulty without resentment, in walking forward without agitation. Persistence is not a struggle against life, it is a commitment to move with purpose through every condition life presents. When the mind no longer resists effort, effort becomes natural and even hardship becomes a form of peace. There will be moments when everything around you suggests you should stop: fatigue in the body, silence in progress, doubt in the mind. In these moments, many surrender because they believe the lack of visible outcome means failure. But the greatest growth often happens when no change can yet be seen. Roots deepen before the tree rises. Steel hardens before it takes shape. The spirit strengthens long before the world notices. To endure in silence is to trust the path, to trust that every step, even the unseen ones, is shaping a stronger self. To remain consistent is also to accept that the journey has no endpoint. Discipline is not a temporary state, it is a way of living. The warrior does not train only for a season or commit only for a moment of achievement. The path continues beyond victory, beyond success, beyond recognition. The aim is not to reach a point where effort is no longer required, but to become someone for whom disciplined effort is as natural as breath. Power is not a destination, it is a state of being continually renewed through practice. In every long path, persistence becomes the ultimate test. Not the strength of the body, not the brilliance of the mind, but the quiet refusal to surrender when progress moves slowly. The one who outlasts outgrows. The one who remains steady surpasses those who burn bright but fade quickly. Time becomes an ally to the disciplined spirit, because with each day of persistence, the distance between the committed and the reluctant grows wider. So continue to walk forward even when the world is silent, even when the progress is unseen, even when the path feels endless. Let your endurance shape your spirit and let your consistency forge your strength, for only the one who refuses to stop discovers how powerful they truly are.